Welcome in, everybody. This is the Hear Me Out podcast. Even though you can see us, we're still going to be talking. The first video that we uploaded, somehow YouTube said that the link wasn't working. So we're going to try this again. We'll do the intros and the bios another time. Pressing matters right now. Sports is back, guys.
Thank you, God.
Sports is back.
Hallelujah.
And to localize it a little more, those two guys will be back in the studio Monday, July 27th. If you don't know, they've been out of the studio since
131 days I've been in the studio.
How long?
131 days and counting from when we're recording this.
131 days. So it's been, I think I saw 133 days since we've had any kind of sports, professional-wise, NBA, MLB, NFL, anything since the beginning of the pandemic. But now we have sports back. I got to see LeBron James. I even did the fan thing, and I put on my shoes while I was watching him.
Nice.
I think that's a little extreme, but
it's a celebration of sports. It's necessary.
Thank you. LeBron was on a court. He did his famous powder thing, and he got a dunk, even though it was only 12 points. But he had a fast break dunk. So, all right, guys. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. The beginning of sports is back, MLB, and we'll be talking a little bit about the Black Lives Matter situations that's going on in sports. That's good with you guys?
Let's rock and roll.
Cool.
Do it.
Okay, so we'll just start it like this. How did you guys feel? Describe that feeling to me when you first heard a buzzer, when you first saw the time start ticking down, when you first heard the basketball bounce. What was that like?
Relief, a huge sigh of relief. For me, it's still taking time to adjust to what it really looks like. It looks like just a really empty summer league game. So it's kind of like what the NBA draft prospects would look like, but to still adjust to know that, okay, these are real NBA teams playing real, scrimmage games as of recording this. But, man, they're going at it. Like, Porzingis looks good. The Rockets are going off. Brody's back in full mode. And, Harden dropped a double-double the other day. But I'm really excited. And I think it's just a much-needed sense of relief that, okay, this is something familiar. It's going to take adjusting to just because we don't really know how. I think there's going to be a little bit of a mountain to climb because they've been off for so long. And, yeah, you can work out at home. And these are incredible athletes. I think it's going to take another readjustment to see what midseason form is going to look like for these guys, but I'm really excited.
Yeah, I agree with that, Rex, man. It's been kind of like a weight lifted off my shoulders because, there's been so much. Is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? You watch ESPN, one day they're saying, oh, yeah, we're coming back. And the next day, I'm not so sure about that.
Right.
So to finally see, I'll take anything at this point. MLS has been back for a while. NASCAR's been back for a while. UFC's been back for a while. To get the big four back, to get the MLB back, even though my Braves lost on opening day, to get the NBA back this week, NHL's coming back at the beginning of August. That is just – it is euphoric how I feel right now.
That's so true. Even Becky Hammond played head coach for a game during, I think, the Bucks, and she looked phenomenal. I know that's one of her paths. She's trying to get into head coaching, but just the fact that she was able to coach a scrimmage preseason game and not let it be the rookies playing or whatever. And they look good. I think it was like 92 to 112, which is a pretty close game, even though it's a scrimmage. Love the fact that we got to see all of the players. Russell Westbrook is playing, Chris Paul, LeBron. The only one we're missing is Kyrie and Kevin. Of course, they're out with injury. What was it like seeing those players? I mean, I just like I opened up talking about LeBron. Like LeBron, I think LeBron is moving into this whole leaning into the father time look. How do you guys feel about seeing the stars?
That's the only way LeBron's gonna. That's the only way LeBron's going to lean into father time because his stats are still insane what he's putting up. So I think it's great because even as a Rockets fan, there was a point where, like, of course Russell Westbrook gets COVID-19. Of course he tests positive.
Well, if you see the way he was wearing his mask, like I understand how he got it. His mask was down here, not covering his nose. Might be
For people out there who are listening and watching this, mouth and nose.
Here to
people.
here, guys. Here to here.
Thank you.
But I think overall, just to get back to the question, it's so relieving just to see the best in the world do it. I live with my girlfriend, God bless her. She is getting sick and tired of me rewatching old clips and old videos of that. And I was just really excited to see it because we all love that league so much. Also, shout out to Andre Roberson, who got back on the court after a serious knee injury.
1,000 days.
1,000 days.
30 months.
So good for him. I'm really happy for him. And it was really cool. I'm sure that Oklahoma City would have been on their feet for him, but the fact that his players and the team went up for him was amazing. But I think overall now it's going to be really interesting because it's a sprint to the end now. So I'm really excited for this season.
Yeah, Rex, and that's something we got to keep an eye on in a lot of these leagues. You know, with the NBA and MLB and NHL, it's a sprint. You know, there's no time, there's no room for error in these situations. You know, and it's going to take not only, you know, the mental strength and, you know, the discipline, you know, and the effort on the court. It's going to take a little bit of luck and, you know, trying to keep, you know, do the best you can to keep your team safe. You know, what the Nationals are going through right now with Juan Soto, their best player, tested positive for COVID-19 opening day. He's out for indefinitely, and we don't know when he's going to come back. It's a 60-game season. He misses 2 weeks. That's a quarter of the season.
Right.
So, you know, that's going to be something we're going to be looking out for.
And, excuse me, guys. Had one of my other coughing fits. Yeah, it is. It is gonna. We'll see how it all plays out. Missing people and having people not playing after a certain amount of times. How does this? I mean, certain amount of days. How does this play out with their bodies? I mean, their bodies are so used to going and going and going and going and going. You can see some people lost a lot of weight, like Djokovic. He lost a lot of weight. And then you see people like Jaylen Brown, who's doing these turnaround step backs on people like Chris Paul and sinking it like nothing but net. So we'll see who has been, and maybe Djokovic, he lost the weight forward to play point guard, which we see that the Denver Nuggets are running big man ball, which is very weird. I really want to see how that works. Hopefully we get to see a game on NBA or the ESPN. I want to see how Bobo goes and plays small forward. All in all.
As many games as they're going to have, you'll see.
Right, exactly. So all in all, as sports was beginning to be talked about coming back, we lost a man, an unarmed Black man was killed, George Floyd, and it sparked protests across the nation and then across the world. Protests are still going on. And with these basketball players, with these professional athletes, period, they have a bigger platform than I do or you do, Rex, or Jack does. So do you guys think, I mean, I know we're all sports heads. Do you think that we should have had sports amid everything that was going on? Or do you think this would be a cool opportunity, a big opportunity for them to talk about things that are going on in the world while doing something that they love?
I 100% think that sports can be a huge avenue to, you know, support the movement. Now, you always hear this slogan that everybody likes to throw out: stick to sports. Mm-hmm. And what people, I think, fail to realize is that, you know, these athletes are humans too. They're regular people. Okay, it just so happens they play sports for a living. Okay, they're entitled to their opinions. And you know, if this is a cause that they want to, and if this is a cause they want to support, you know, and you know, I've seen it said, and I agree with it, is that this is not a political issue. This is a human rights issue. Right. You know, this isn't about, you know, red or blue or left or right or whatever the case might be. It's legitimately just about caring for your fellow human, no matter what the color of their skin is. So I feel like sports will be a huge avenue to give that message. And I know some people were, you know, all you gotta do is go to a Facebook or Twitter comment section anytime any sports network posts,
Post
you know,
anything, right?
anything about it. And, you know, you don't need me to tell you what those comment sections look like, but
Right. Ugh.
but just being honest, like it's not a political thing. You know, these guys, you know, just like a lot of people just want to see everybody treated fairly and equally. That's not too hard to ask. So I think, you know, being able to use your platform, being an athlete in the big four sports, or, you know, in any sport, you know, you go look at, you know, every corner of the sporting world and every corner of the world. You know, you look at the NWSL, you know, they've been doing things. The Premier League in England, they've been doing things. NASCAR with Bubba Wallace. Like, you know, I could go on and on about the different, you know, tributes and, you know, messages that have been put out there, you know, in support of this. And like I said, it's not a political thing. Like, you know, one of my favorite quotes is just be kind to each other. You know, be a light, you know, like we experienced with Marty Smith a few months back. Be a light for somebody else to have somebody have a brighter day. That's not hard. It doesn't kill you to be nice to somebody, you know, and treat somebody the way you would want to be treated.
Rex, how did you feel about Tobias Harris and LeBron James using their platform during the press conferences and the post-game press conferences to talk about the Breonna Taylor case and
I think
systematic racism in general?
it was really important. And to go back to the original point, I completely agree with what Jack said. There's a lot of things though without sports, the George Floyd death and everything that came from it just had a bigger effect because we couldn't bury that news with, oh my God, did you see this insane move that happened on the court? So
Right.
I think it's an excellent thing for what LeBron and Tobias have done is like, look, we're glad to be back. We're glad that sports are back, but there's a family out there that still needs justice and there's still a lot of work to do. So I really do applaud a lot of what players are doing to help with the Black Lives Matter movement, to keep this in the forefront. Because yes, we're excited that the four sports are coming back. Believe me, working in this field, I'm really excited for it. But we have to remember that there's still a lot of work to do. And there's a lot of energy out there that we need to direct in the right way. I did a lot of soul searching with the George Floyd stuff, and I had to reach out to both of you because I wanted to let you know that I'm taking this one way more seriously. And I did some soul searching because for me, as well as Jack pointed out, these guys are human beings. It's really hypocritical for me as a sports reporter who reports, because when you work in this field, especially in this country, a lot of athletes happen to be African American. So to celebrate African American athletes, to talk about them, to talk their highlights, to interview them, to sit down with them, but then to not care about them when they leave that arena, when they leave the field, leave the court, whatever they do, when they take off that jersey and they're still that person, because LeBron James is still a father of, you know, a black father who has black sons that he has to worry about. It's really hypocritical of me as an employer, as an employee of this station, and as a human being in general, to not listen to that community when they're in pain. It would make it like could not look at myself in the mirror and tell James Harden to just play basketball, but I'm wearing his jersey. I have stuff that you know, I have a little pop figure of him up here, or I tweet at Russell Westbrook, amazing game, but then I don't care about him when he goes home to his family. That's a thing that I think actually absence of sports has helped us as a people hold up a mirror, and I saw us take a lot of shifts and there are a lot of discussions that I don't think gained enough momentum. For example, when Trayvon Martin passed away, and even when Breonna passed away, and so many others that their families are still hurting, and there's still a lot of work to do. So maybe it was a good thing that all of our energy was pointed towards that, good and bad, because again, we have a lot of energy out there that needs to be either pointed in the right direction or put it more productively. But as Jack said, we need to be better to each other. We just need to be better. It shouldn't be a political thing. You celebrate these black athletes when they do well, when they score touchdowns for you in the SEC championship game, when they hit a buzzer beater or hit a home run. It's really hypocritical for us to not listen to them or to say, shut up and dribble, when they're actually talking about stuff when they have to go home.
It's completely true. I think a lot of people were trying to say the whole, you know, stick to sports thing, but a lot of political things happening in the sports world. We've seen Michael Jordan say that he wasn't going to talk about stuff, elections that was happening in his hometown. And then we've seen a lot of people caping for Obama when he was running for president. Another thing that I think about is I was on the side of, I don't want sports. There's so many things happening right now. There's a pandemic, there's protests and riots going on. And then the media stopped showing the riots and what was going on. And then the conversation turned from not talking about the protests and the riots and the systematic racism and Black Lives Matter to back to COVID. But now with sports, we see the Black Lives Matter on the court. We see the BLM on the pitching mound of baseball, somewhere I never thought I would see that. And then we saw two teams kneeling, like, okay, and this is a tangent. I don't like that they kneeled before the national anthem. I understand why they did it, but I think it kind of just waters down what Colin Kaepernick did. He didn't want to stand anymore for a national anthem that did not talk about people that looked like him, Black and brown people. So he kneeled against the racism that was going on, against the inequalities that was going on. But the fact that they did that before the national anthem, it watered it down. However, I can say that they did do it. Everybody did it, Black, white, Dominican, Puerto Rican players, everybody did it. But just going back to that, it's just, now I see why sports was so important to come back, because it is drawing the mindset, the talk back to Breonna Taylor's murders need to be arrested, systematic racism, all of this stuff. And then the fact that they're talking about it in the post-game conferences and just Tobias Harris saying, that's all I'm going to say. Those are going to be my answers. If you want to ask me some more, I'm going to give you that answer. So I like the fact that it did come back, and we can still talk about the riots, especially that's going on in Portland. And then COVID-19, they all tested negative, even though it is a bubble, which they're not supposed to be catching it. But WNBA is back.
Playing right now.
Yes. I cannot wait to see Sabrina's highlights. I can't wait to see all of their highlights.
Sabrina's a monster. I am a fan.
The fact that she had 26 triple doubles in college, and the WNBA only had 9 in the last 26 years. Or 23 or 26 years, something like that. I cannot wait to see how she adjusts to playing with big name players. Brittany, Sue, Diana, all of them.
You kind of got the feeling that, few players like that, like Ella Deladon and Candace Parker and all of them, they give you a special kind of feeling like, okay, I don't care what league she plays in, she can ball. And I think Sabrina is the next coming, like the wave of that. And it's really interesting to see how far this WNBA league is going to come. And I think I was talking to Jack about this in the office that, we just got to give the WNBA a chance. Like, just
exactly.
This is insane.
Hello. Basketball and soccer.
And I feel like they're going to get a chance with the bubble, because there's so, these networks, and, this is kind of like a tangent that I follow because self-professed news nerd. But these networks are so starved for content after not having anything for the last 4 months that they will take literally anything they can get. And, I feel like that's going to help benefit the WNBA. Like they have a game going on right now that started at noon on ESPN. They're playing at 2:00 on ABC today. So that is such a big deal to get them that exposure for regular season games, where, any other time the regular season is probably tucked away on, ESPN News or something.
Versus network.
Or some cable channel that the casual viewer doesn't have. So I think this is, there's not many silver linings to this pandemic, believe me. But, as we come back, I think a silver lining for the WNBA and the NWSL, who's about to have their Challenge Cup championship on CBS this weekend, for them to be able to have those bigger platforms that they otherwise may not have had.
Let's move into the, I think it was a Chiefs player or 49ers player that decided to not come back to the millions of dollars he was getting, and he's deciding to, he said he can't let his conscience go taking a risk doing something that he loves. He wants to go and take care of other people. How did y'all feel about that? I saw that and I kind of teared up a little bit when I read his whole statement that he put on Twitter.
So the player you're talking about, Shaq, is Laurent Duvernay-Tardif.
Yes.
And he's one of those players that his story is just absolutely incredible. I want to say, I think E60 or somebody did a story on him like a year or so ago about, in addition to him being a lineman for the now Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, he's done so much in the medical community. He has a medical degree, and what he's been doing during the pandemic, he's a Canadian, and he's been outside of Montreal assisting at a long-term assisted living facility. Mm-hmm. And basically what he was saying is, with everything that's going on right now, I'd much rather be trying to help people beat this virus than potentially spread it. It takes a lot. Like it takes a lot to be able to, forego, the average person be like, that's $2.5 million you're giving up. That's a lot of money. That's life-changing money. So that's a lot of money. And now he's gonna be making, I think, either $150,000 or $350,000, depending on which category he falls in with the NFL because the guidelines. Mm-hmm. So, and then to give up a year of playing in the NFL, a lot of people wouldn't do that. So, it's incredible to see, just how selfless he's being. And, that's what it takes right now in this day and age with the pandemic. It requires a lot of us to being selfless. And that's just another example of someone taking skills they've been blessed with and sacrificing, I guarantee he probably much rather be out, with his boys on the field getting ready to defend that Super Bowl title. But to be able to go out and, help others try to beat this virus, that is incredible and not to mention commendable.
Heroic is the word that always came to mind when I saw his story. It was just a man who truly who found his calling. And again, to be an NFL player is already hard enough when you grow up in a country where American football is popular. He came from Canada. So an international player to adjust to the American football game where a lot of his teammates probably played the game since they were 6 or 7 years old and are at an elite level, already in a ridiculously selective group of men to play that game. But to understand that his skill set also as a doctor can affect more people and help more families than blocking for someone to score a touchdown. And I think it's absolutely heroic and commendable, as Jack said. For him to turn down that kind of money is not easy for anyone to do. So for him to go where he's needed versus to go where he wants to go probably where financially makes more sense is heroic. And I hope that he stays safe, and I hope that all of his patients have an incredible recovery because Lord knows we need all the doctors and all of our first responders to be blessed and to be watched over because they are doing so much for families around the world. And I hope this turns for the better soon.
So let's take his $2.5 million cash.
Yes, please.
Let's bet on an NBA champion. Rex, who you got?
Oh boy.
Where are you putting all of your ducks?
All of them? Like on one team? All right.
Well, you have your $2.5 million, divvy it up how you would, but where would you put your money? Where would you bet your money? The majority of your money.
I'm taking $2 million. I'm going on vacation. Not playing. So I'm putting a majority of my money because when you're sprinting at this point, I put a lot of emphasis on youth, and I put a lot of emphasis, a combination of that and veteran leadership. So it's tough for me to say no to LeBron and AD, but I still think that team had a ways to go to gel even more, to to get to an elite level. I love my Rockets, but it's going to be really tough for PJ Tucker to block out anybody that's taller than him.
Right.
I have to go with Giannis. I'm going with Giannis in the Bucks.
Okay.
And I know the Clippers are out there and they're dogs, but there's something special.
So you're going to take the Milwaukee Bucks. Who are they playing against?
The Clippers.
Okay.
I think that defensively, you can't teach the defensive tenacity that a Kawhi and a Paul George and all those players on there have. And because they are younger than the Lakers, and there's just more of them, I have to lean.
So you're taking the Bucks against the Clippers. Bucks for the win.
Mm-hmm.
Best of 7. What's the series?
I want it to go to 7.
Okay.
Because I think there's a punch-counterpunch there that could be really fun and unique to see, just because you can game plan for Giannis, but that's game planning for Giannis because he's an absolute freak of nature. Did he shrink in the playoffs? Yeah.
He did.
But I think he's good. He's learned enough, and he'll be able to – he has a really unique cast around him. But if it goes to 7, it'll be a 10-point game or less in Game 7.
Okay. Jack, $2.5 million. We're taking all of your money. Who meets up in the NBA championship? Since I think that's going to be that'll be the first championship that we get this year. Besides NFL.
If you had asked me this a couple weeks ago, I probably would have went with the Clippers in the West. But the Clippers are not having a fun time right now. They have like a bunch of players that have had to leave the bubble for whatever reason. They're not having a good time right now. So, and like I said, I've kind of been leaning with the Clippers the entire season, and I thought they were in a good place. Even when the season stopped, and I figured Kawhi, PG, and that cast of guys would be strong enough to make a run through the West. But with so many different players they have trouble. I was listening to ESPN radio today. Zubac's not there. Lou Williams isn't there. Amongst I think Landry Shamit's not there. So there's key players for this team, not named Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, that are not with this team right now, and the season starts this week. So odds are they won't be there to start. So the key is, how long are they out? Because if they're out when they start the playoffs, that is a huge, huge problem. So with that caveat being said, so like I said, I would have initially went with the Clippers, but right now, it's like I said earlier, it's going to take not just the mental discipline and the mental toughness, but it's going to be who can stay the healthiest and who can, not have any issues, both, physically and, with the COVID virus. So, with that being said, as of right now, and this could definitely be subject to change depending on what happens, I'm taking the Lakers out west. Right now, they have the most complete team that is healthy, and LeBron does look good. I trust the veteran leadership of LeBron and AD. The rest of the guys are coming along just fine. So I think the Lakers will win the West. I disagree with Rex here. I'm going to take the Raptors out east. I think everybody is still sleeping on this team because, for the longest time, they had to go down to another part of Florida to start training because they couldn't train in Toronto. So, but Toronto feels like the most complete team in the East. Yes, the Bucks have Giannis, and Giannis is a freak, a great freak. And I love Chris Middleton too, but I think the Raptors are the most complete team out east, and I think the teamwork of the Raptors will beat Giannis and the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. And then for the finals, give me the Lakers in 6, but I would love it to go to 7.
I'm going to take all my money. I'll probably add a little bit from my coin jar, and I'll put it on the Lakers, only because I'm a LeBron fan. And I want him to win. I want him to win one in Los Angeles. They said that he couldn't do it. They said that he couldn't be the same person he was in the East and the West. The Lakers are now the #1 team in the West. And to top it all off, he'd be doing it in memory of Kobe Bean Bryant. It'd be perfect. I would forget that the pandemic ever happened, but it would have to be an asterisk next to the championship because season wasn't all played out. And I'm pretty sure he probably wouldn't even count it as a real ring. But I'm going to count it because that means I'm going to win at least $7, $8, $9 million off his championship, which is good. I have them playing the Bucks. Well, yeah, I have them playing the Bucks.
The Bucks. Sorry, go ahead, check.
No, go ahead. I was. We can have back and forth.
Oh, I would just say 3 championships, 3 different franchises. That's GOAT status.
That's another thing. 3 is the lucky.
I don't know. Has that ever been done before? Well, I guess
3 is a lucky number. Exactly.
For him being the main factor, Robert Horry won with the Spurs, the Lakers, and the Rockets.
Okay.
And he hit 7. But Big Shot Bob, I love him, but he wasn't the LeBron James of his team. For him, for LeBron to be the driving force behind all of those organizations.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly. Again, 3 is a lucky number.
So I can understand that wasn't a three-peat. It wasn't back-to-back-to-back like how Jordan did it or Kobe did it. But, y'all, this man literally said, I'm going to go to the biggest stage outside of the dumpster fire that is New York. And
do it.
And be in the shadow of Kobe. And then now have the shoulders to bear basically the grief of a Laker nation and take them to another level. So that would be, I mean, that would be the perfect. And if the pandemic didn't happen, I'd probably bet more than $2.5 million on them because they had the momentum. And just like you were saying, Jack, I know you were saying that they still needed more time to gel, but they were gelling during the momentum.
Yeah, exactly.
If Cruz can get his mid-range shot and 3 balls down, they're perfect. They're fine. Now that Rajon Rondo is out, though, I will understand that. You know, they're set back a little bit because J.R. Smith can't do anything but dribble the ball. I would not let him shoot.
We all need to
I don't understand it.
Where does he keep coming from? I would have signed Nick Young.
Yeah, no, seriously. But, like, I would look at J.R. Smith walking into the locker room like, really? You're back?
And then how did LeBron let that happen?
I'm going to be honest. If I'm LeBron, I go to J.R. Smith and I said, if you pull that stunt you pulled in game 1 of the finals a couple years ago, you're going to have a problem.
And that isn't a conversation where you have face-to-face. That's LeBron going up, grabbing JR by the back of his neck like his dad. You do this again, I promise you're not going to like it.
And I'm pretty sure he's already had talks with Ginny Buss and all of them, like, look, one time. That's it. Watch it, game 2 of the restart. Get out. Even in the scrimmage, one time. We'll go and get Nick Young. I'll let my son play. Because we're not going to have this. You're not going to mess me up on 2 different teams because he could have won twice at the Cavs. But that was game 1, wasn't it? That was game 1 of that finals.
That was game 1.
Game 1. And they had them. They had them. Huge momentum swing. So
how do you forget what the score is?
Random shout out to the All the Smoke podcast. They had a conversation with J.R. Smith, Matt Barnes, and Steven Jackson. It's phenomenal.
I'm gonna have to go watch it.
They specifically talk about that moment.
I'm gonna have to watch it. Especially look, Steven Jackson, that man will give it to you.
You give they gave Steven Jackson and Barnes a mic, and it's fantastic, y'all. Go check it out. So shout out to all the Smoke podcast.
Smart of them. Well, guys, that is going to do it for our first podcast, really the second one. We'll be doing this as weekly as we can. Thank you so much for tuning in with us. For Rex Castillo, Jack Patterson, I'm Shakira Speaks. You guys can see this airing next week. Thank y'all.